In a quiet village steeped in poverty lived a young girl named Rosie. Though only 10 years old, she carried in her heart a strength and integrity that many adults could only dream of. Each morning, before the sun rose, Rosie would help her sick mother bake bread. Then, placing the loaves in an old basket, she set out to sell them in the village streets, from dawn until dusk. She sat in the same corner every day, watching children pass by in clean uniforms, their arms full of new books. She gazed at them with dreamy eyes and silent longing. She wished to be one of them. But her father's death and her mother's illness had turned school into a distant, unreachable dream. Rosie had no choice but to work. She needed to earn enough to buy her mother's medicine and pay for her younger brother's education. One morning, a blind man approached and asked her for a loaf of bread. She handed him one with a warm smile. The man reached into his pocket, pulled out a banknote, gave it to her, thanked her, and slowly continued on his way. Rosie looked at the bill. It was a $100 note. She froze, her small heart pounding. That money could buy medicine for her mother for months, provide her brother with new books, and maybe even some warm clothes for the winter. But without hesitation, she ran after the blind man, gently stopped him, and said, "Sir, you gave me this bill by mistake. The bread only costs 5 cents." The man smiled and asked softly, "But were not you in need of this money, my dear?" Rosie nodded and answered truthfully, "Yes, my family really needs it, but I can't take what isn't mine." At that moment, it was as if sunlight filled the man's eyes. He gently rested his hand on her shoulder, said nothing, and quietly walked away. The next day, the entire village gathered in front of Rosie's home. The same man had returned, but this time, he wasn't alone. A group of journalists and photographers accompanied him. As it turned out, the man was a very wealthy businessman. He had disguised himself as a blind man to test the integrity of the people in his hometown, and Rosie was the only one who had passed. In front of everyone, he announced that he would cover all of Rosie's family expenses, pay for her mother's treatment, and fund the education of both Rosie and her brother until they graduated from university. That same week, Rosie walked into school for the very first time. She wore a clean uniform and carried a school bag full of books. Her eyes sparkled with hope. As she sat in her new classroom, her heart overflowed with joy. The teacher asked, "Rosie, what do you dream of becoming one day?" Rosie stood up and replied with quiet confidence, "I want to become a doctor, so I can return to my village and treat the poor for free, just like someone helped me when I needed it most." The teacher smiled. The students burst into applause. And Rosie felt a warmth she had never known before, like the doors of the future had opened before her, filled with light and love. Another story about integrity and kindness is coming. Subscribe to stay inspired.